I'm going to speak for just a few minutes, and then there's something I need to do at the end of this service. And please remind me if I get carried away, because sometimes my brain is on what I'm preaching and not what I'm supposed to be doing. And so thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys. This past week, my family and I went to Branson and did a whole lot of nothing. That's what we did. And we didn't do it long enough, nothing. I came home, I think, tired, more tired than I was when I left. But we did a whole lot of nothing. And I want to thank you guys for, thank you, Sister Denise, for taking care of Wednesday night and speaking for us. I appreciate that so very much. And I know Landon had the kids do their thing, and he said they did the best they've ever done, and I appreciate them. But we went Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and came home Thursday evening from Branson. I did a whole lot of nothing and laid around and did I was at the pool with Ava, because all Ava wanted to do is swim in the hotel pool. Whatever, that's fine. Whatever. She's 11, she can do what she wants out here. I cherish that time because she's the one that lets me still be part of the game. You know, I'm still her daddy, and so. Everybody else, I'm their dad, and so I'm the old guy, and it just gripes at them for not picking stuff up. And it's amazing, you know. I've got a 22-year-old daughter, a 16-year-old daughter, an 18-year-old son, and an 11-year-old daughter, and they don't know how to pick anything up yet. It's amazing. It just fascinates me that they can't pick shoes up. I don't get it. Whatever, and so. Just fascinates me. But so we're at the hotel pool, and I'm laying around, and I had been working on this message about the pool of Bethesda for a while. And remember, we used to have pool of Bethesda services, and we'd get this little swimming pool, and everybody would get in the line and we'd dance through the pool and get all that stuff. And it was great. But I was just thinking about that. It's been about what is today? Today is the 30th. Oh man! So it was the 1st of June. I began to work on this little sermonette I'm going to speak to you. And as I'm laying at the pool watching my daughter swim, and because I wasn't getting out there, nobody needs to see this, and so I just let her swim, and I got in one day with her, but not too much. But she was just by herself, and she's flipping around, and she's doing her thing. And the sad thing about having an 11-year-old, and the next closest to her is 16, is that she's always by herself. She doesn't, you know, she's just by herself. She doesn't have any cousins really that age that are around. She doesn't have any siblings that are really that age, so she's stuck with her mom and dad all the time. Do you feel her pain? And so it's kind of the same thing as that. How Daly had to grow up is because her brothers and sister were older than her, and she just kind of was left with mom and dad. And and so we were just, I'm sitting there hanging out at the pool watching, and I'm just sitting there at the pool thinking, here she is by herself playing in this pool. And she has no concept of that she's by herself. That's just her life. She doesn't understand me. I'm like, oh, she has no cousins. She's like, I don't have any cousins. I don't care. That's life to me. I'm just playing. This is normal to me to be by myself. It's normal for me to play in the pool, and my dad goes, "Don't go down there." And so it's normal for her. But for me, it would have been tragic because I grew up with cousins everywhere, and I grew up with friends, but they were the same age. But for her, it's just normal. It's perspective. It's the perspective of what you have. In John chapter 5, we're not going to read all this, but it's John chapter 5, verse 1 through 15. I'm not going to read 15 verses for you, or 16. I'm just going to I'm going to smooth over them, and I'm going to go over them, and we're going to talk about them a little bit. But I want you to get the concept of this, and what's going on. And the title of the message, if you will, is, Do You Want to Be Well? That's New King James. I think the King James is, Wilt Thou Be Made Whole, or something like that. But it's, Do You Want to Be Well? And as I'm sitting there and I'm watching her, and she has no concept of being alone, she's just playing like she normally does. And Olivia, is 16, and she has nothing to do with her 11-year-old sister, and because she gets on my nerves. Well, you get on everybody's nerves, so shut up. Okay, and so I know I'm talking about my family, not yours, and so just like. Everybody needs an Olivia in their life. Amen. I love Olivia. Olivia is so out there, man. And she's the only one that has an O instead of an A for a name. I didn't plan it that way. That's just the way it happened. She's always been different. She's always been that different kid. She's always acted different, been different. She's just a different kid. But that doesn't mean I love her any less. I love that kid. She has no fear. She has no fear of anybody or anything. Fearless. She's just, you want to fight? Let's do it. She's down with it. Let's fight. Let's get it. But she still loves, and she still has a heart that is, she doesn't like anybody to see, but it's there. But she's just different. Abby can cry watching a commercial. It's just amazing. Adam, you'll get no emotion from Adam at all. Nothing. Good or bad. He's just even killed. Whatever, man. They didn't care. And then I have Ava, who's turned a lot toward like Abby is, but she's very introverted. She likes to sit and draw for hours. She likes to read. Listen, I have 3 girls, and 2 of them are going to be over 6 feet tall. And if you throw a ball at one of them, you're going to hit them in the face. They can't catch. They can't run. They are the least athletic kids I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know how that ever happened, but whatever. But Abby, poor Abby, her knees are like our grandmother's, our great-grandmother's. Her kneecaps go side to side, set up and down. So if she runs and they pop out of place, it's just sad. And so the only way to fix that is when she gets older, that we're going to have to do knee replacement. But I choose to believe that God's going to heal her knees. Amen. And so if you'll ever just let her do her knee like up and down, her kneecap goes side to side. It's really weird, but it's how it is. But I was sitting at the pool watching this goofy kid jump and doing her little spins and stuff, and doing her 11-year-old girl stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking that she has no concept that she's by herself. She has no concept that nobody's watching her. She has no concept that Dad's there going, okay, we've been here an hour and a half. Can we do something else? She has no concept of that. And all she knows is, hey, I got to go to the pool and my dad's dead. I got to go to the pool and my mom and dad are there and they're watching me and they're telling me how great I'm doing. And, she's doing cannonballs. They're not cannonballs. But anyway, she's not big enough to do cannonball. But anyway, she's not fat enough. But she's there. And in John chapter 5, verse 3, I'm just going to share this with you real fast, and I'll leave you alone. It says, in these are the porches. Let me just get back up. This is the Pool of Bethesda. The Pool of Bethesda is at the sheep gate. And when you're coming in to the sheep gate, it's split into, there's one pool they would wash the sheep. There's another pool that the people would lay by. And there's 5 porches by the pool of Bethesda. And there's 5 porches, and because there was a multitude of sick people that laid on those 5 porches. And so whenever the waters were quote-unquote troubled, when we were in Israel, they'll tell you that what happens is there's a spring that's underneath there, and it comes up and it pours over into the other pool. And so it's not like Old Faithful. It doesn't happen every 50-something minutes. Okay, it happens when it happens. And so it goes up and it pours over into the other pool. And so when you're there, it's pretty much dried up now, and it's just a bunch of ruins there. But at that time, they would go there, and when the waters would be quote-unquote troubled, the first person in the water would be, the tradition of the legend was that they would be healed. The Bible says that they would be healed of whatever infirmity that they had at that time. So there was a bunch of people trying to get into one pool. It's not a very big pool. It's just a hole, basically. It's a mud hole, basically. It's sprinkled. And so there were 5 porches, and on these 5 porches there were all these blind, sick, and lame people. Let's read it. Verse 3 says, in these, the porches, lay a great multitude of sick people. They were blind, they were lame, they were paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain time into the pool and stirred up the water. Then whoever stepped in first after the stirring of the water was made well of whatever disease he had. Now a certain man was there who had an infirmity for 38 years. And when Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been in that condition a long time, he said to him, do you want to be made well? Do you want to be made well? And so we're going to use that as our anchor scripture today. Do you want to be made well? In verse 3, in these porches lay a great multitude of people. There were blind people, there were lame people, paralyzed people, waiting for the moving of the water. This man had been there for 38 years. How old was Jesus? Jesus was between the age of 30 and 33 and a half at this time. He had been laying there longer than Jesus had naturally been on the earth. And I don't believe this was Jesus' first time to walk past the sheep gate. And I want you to realize that sometimes we lay by these things and we become part of the porch. Sometimes you just become part of the scenery. Sometimes you get so used to it that there's nothing different about it. You don't realize you don't have cousins. You don't realize you don't have anybody but your mom and dad sitting at the pool watching you jump in and spin and jump in and try to do a cannonball. You don't realize those things because it's just part of your life. He had been there for 38 years. That's a long time to do anything. I started, this year in May was my 18th year to be the Mission Tortilla sales rep in Southern Oklahoma. Yippee-yay. You know what that means? Nothing. It means I've been driving to Ada every day for 13 years, or 18 years, sorry. And so it's been a long time that I've been doing that. And sometimes I don't remember driving there because I've driven there so much. I don't remember getting there. I remember the stop sign at River Mist, or the stoplight. I remember I have to exit so I can get off and go to the loop so I can go to Walmart. I remember those, but to drive there, don't really remember because it all looks the same. Now they are doing some road construction there now, so it has heightened the drive. You have to slow down to 55. Okay, 60. But you have to slow down, and you have to go through there. And so it's changed everything. But we go, and I just don't remember really the scenery anymore. I don't. It's just there. I know when I get to Wolf, I have 10 miles to get home. I know when I get to Bowlegs, I have 5 miles to get home. I know when I get to Letha, I've got 2 miles to get home. I know when I get to the railroad tracks, well, it used to be railroad tracks here in town, I know I have about 1.5 miles to my house. So I count it down that way. But this man had been laying there for 38 years. Can you imagine that I bet he knew how many rocks built that building. I bet he knew how many birds were in the yard. I bet he knew everything. Do you understand that he got so used to being there that it was just commonplace for him to be at the pool? He became known as the guy on the porch. Yeah. They don't even give us his name. He's the dude on the porch that's lame. And as the Bible says, there's a multitude of them there. There's a multitude of blind people, sick people, and paralyzed and lame. There's a bunch of them. A multitude is not 5. A multitude is at 500. There's a bunch of them. And so in verse 4 he says that the angel went down at a certain time to the pool and stirring the water. Then whosoever stepped in first after the stirring of the water was made well of whatsoever disease he had. They were waiting for someone to do something. Waiting for someone to do something. They were waiting for something to change. And they were waiting for the water to move. So I want to ask you a question this morning. How long have you sat by the pool waiting for someone to do something? Hey, sit down. How long have you waited for someone to do something so you feel like you can do what it is that you want to do? How long has it been for you're waiting for something to change? Something's got to change. Waiting for the water to move. In verse 5 it says, there's a man of 38 years there. It said, a certain man was there and had been in infirmity for 38 years. Jesus had been walking by there. Jesus had seen him before. Jesus had noticed that man before. Jesus knew who the man on the porch was. Everybody knew he's the man on the porch. Oh, okay, go to the man on the porch and turn right, and then start right down the road. You know, and so he was like a directional place now. Go to the landmark. I think I can remember the name of it. The landmark. Okay. The man had been laying there longer than Jesus had been human on this earth. That's a long time. Listen, Jesus noticed that there was a multitude of people, but how many people did he speak to? One. I want to share this with you that people who are paralyzed and people who are lame and people who are blind spiritually, they tend to group together. they tend to congregate together. They find, if you've ever been in church life very long, you'll find the gossipers. They all stay together because they have somebody to talk to. You'll find the gripers because they have somebody to gripe to. You'll find the complainers. There's always somebody to complain to. But you'll also notice on the flip side of that coin, you'll find the workers because they find somebody to work with. You'll find the teachers because they'll find somebody to teach. You'll find the preachers because they'll find somebody to preach to. You'll find the singers because they'll find somebody to sing to. You'll find them. People just kind of group together. They kind of flock together. Birds of a feather. Thank you. That's very true. And so when you're in church, and so these guys had been laying there, some of them have been laying there maybe longer than him. The Bible doesn't go into detail. Some of them have been laying there very long. But it seems like in church life, people get by the pool because we are in where the miracles are supposed to happen. And they get there, and then they begin to make excuse why they can't get into the pool. Why is it that God will not give me breakthrough? Well, maybe number one is because you do more complaining than praying. Maybe number two is you do more excuse making than you do thanking God for what He's done in your life. Maybe we maybe we have a hard time recognizing. I'm not trying to get on to you. What I'm trying to say is I want you to recognize some things. Maybe we have a hard time recognizing what God has done for us because it's easier to dwell on the negative than it is on the positive. It's easier to complain than it is to praise. It's easier to find somebody to complain to. It's easier. Because people want to be negative. I don't know, we've almost made a religion out of having this mentality. Oh, baby, I know Jesus knows you, and I know that you're really, I know you get high every day, but Jesus understands. I know you're cheating on your spouse, but you know what? God understands. Listen, God knows you're struggling with that. But the problem with that is that a lot of people at the pool want to be recognized as what their problem is. With me? I'm a paralytic. Okay? I'm lame. Okay? I have issues in my life. I'm blind. Can't you see that I'm blind? And they want it to be identified by their problem or their issue more than they want to be identified by who they're not, by their name. Okay. Come on, preach it. Who are you? Who are you? What is your name? Well, I'm the paralyzed guy. No? What's your name? I'm the lame guy on the porch. I'm the guy who can't get in the water because I have nobody to put me in there. No, that's not who you are. What's your name? What is it that God has called you? Who are you? What is it that God wants you to do? What is it God has said to you and to your heart and to your life? What is it that God wants to... Listen, complainers will always find somebody to complain to. You're never going to get away from complainers. The way to get away from complainers is to not listen to them. Gossipers, if you don't listen to them, they won't gossip to you. Just telling you. They won't. They'll find somebody else to call. Or text. Or post. Or whatever. Whatever you do now. I don't know. Whatever. Tweet. Twitter, tweet. Facebook, whatever. Shut up. Okay, listen. Leave me alone. Alright. But after 38 years, he just became part of the scenery. He was supposed to be there. I want to ask you a question. I want you to really think about it. You don't have to answer me. I want you to think about it. Do you really want to be made well? Or do you want to be accepted in your sickness? Think about it. Do you want to just be the angry person? That everybody just accepts you have an anger problem? Don't go there. Don't say that. And they'll blow up. Do you really want to be that person that everybody knows that you talk about everybody, but let's not go there because they'll start talking about us? Yeah. Give somebody else a break. I'm fair game, whatever. Just give somebody else a break. Are we just going to be accepted as that, or we want God to really change us? Because if God changes you, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have to change who you hang with. What do you mean? When he was healed, he didn't hang out at the porch anymore. He got up and left the people that he had been there with for 38 years. He walked away from because he was no longer that person anymore. Does that make sense to anybody? Okay, he was no longer that person. He was no longer the paralytic on the porch. He was the guy Jesus healed on the Sabbath. No, yes he did. He healed somebody on the Sabbath. We didn't check with the Sadducees and Pharisees to make sure it was okay. He just said, take up thy bed and walk. And so can you stand to be made whole? Can you stand to be made well? Because are you putting all your identity in your issue? Come on, he was supposed to be there. He was unable to see himself as any other thing but simply there. In verse 7, the sick man answered and said this, Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, but while I am coming, another steps down before me. That's not what Jesus asked him. Jesus did not ask him, do you have anybody to put you in the pool? Jesus asked him, do you want to be made whole or well? You would think dude would say, yes, I want to be made well. And maybe he would have in the first month. Or maybe he would have this first year. Maybe after 10 years, yes, I still want to be made whole. Yes, of course I do. How about after 20 years? Maybe his first response would have been, yes, I want to be well. But after 38 years of seeing his future, but not being able to touch his future, he began to just forget about his future. See, because think about this, for 38 years, he had laid on a mat and he had seen his healing and somebody else receive it. He had seen the waters troubled and no way to get there. He had seen the waters changed and no way to be able to get there because he had no man to put him there. In verse 7 he says this, he says, I have no man to place me in the water. And when I get up and go, somebody is there before me. They get in before me. Verse 8 says, Jesus said to him, rise, take up thy bed and walk. Jesus didn't say anything about placing him in any water. He didn't say anything about taking him down and dunking him. He just said, do you want to be made well? The sick man gave him all excuses. And Jesus just said this, okay, to do this, you're going to have to do something. Nobody's going to help you. You have to do it. Amen. Nobody's going to pick you up and give you your mat. You're going to have to get off your tail and you're going to have to do it yourself. Amen. Guys, can I share this with you? And I'm running out of time because there's something I want to do after this, but I'm running out of time. Listen. Sometimes you've got to do it yourself. Right. You and Jesus. You've got to decide, I want to change my location. I've got to change what I'm doing. For 38 years, you've had the same issue. Could you do us all a favor in the church, and by 2020, could you get at least a new issue? So we don't have to identify you as the gossip or the whatever. We can identify you as something else. But can you at least by 2020 get something different going on in your life? Can we change who we are? A little bit. But sometimes, guys, you've got to get up yourself and you've got to walk forward yourself and you've got to pick up your own bed and carry it yourself, because sometimes you don't have anybody to carry it for you and you've got to do it yourself. Just listen, Jesus saw him lying there and Jesus finally said, I'm going to ask this dude. I've seen him lay there my entire life. I'm going to ask this dude, do you want to be well? How many times does Jesus come into your life and ask you, do you want to be well? And you begin to make excuses why you can't be well. Well, I don't have anybody. Well, the waters are like somebody else got in there before I did. Listen, if Jeff was really prophetic, what he would do, he would know that I'm the spiritual leader. And then I would just teleport down there and I would take that microphone and everybody in the church would get saved. If he just was, listen, no. There's prices to be paid. There's things you have to do. Number one is you have to recognize that Jesus just walked into your life and asked you a question. The Messiah. I love it. Brother Dean said today, what does Christ mean? Someone tell me, what does Christ mean? The anointed. His anointed. The anointed one. His anointed. I want you to understand, you have to realize that Jesus just walked into your room. Jesus just walked into your life. You've got to listen. The Messiah just showed up. And He's asking you a question. Do you want to be well? Well, I don't know. It depends. What do I have to give up, God? Can I still drink with my buddies on the weekend, God? Oh, we're going to get there in a second. Can I still go to the club with my friends, God? Can I still smoke a little dope on the weekend, God? Can I still look at pornography, God? God, can I still sin? Just I know, listen, God, I know it's got me. We understand each other, Jesus. You know this is my thing. The answer to that is no. Get off the porch. You got to change your location. You got to change the people you're hanging with. For 38 years, they talked about the problems. For 38 years, they talked about being sick. For 38 years, they talked about being, I wish I could be made whole. For 38 years, listen, this is just people. These aren't just biblical people, they're just people. What would you talk about for 38 years? I could put an O-ring in my ankle. I'd be all right. That's right. Put an O-ring. Whatever you put in your... I'm like, just get some cushion in my ankle. I could just see. I just had somebody. There's a pool there and it gets troubled and somebody flops in there before you get in. And they're healed. I don't want to get on this guy too much, but for 38 years, he seemed like he could move a little bit. Squirm. So as soon as it was, I mean, you could just like lay there with your arm in the water or something, you know, just, so you're the first one, you know, something. For 38 years, he made excuses. I wonder about this guy. I wonder, did his parents just drop him off? Good luck? I don't know. I'll share this with you, and I'm going to quit and leave you alone. In verse 14. The Sadducees and Pharisees, they saw him carrying his mat. They got mad because he got healed on the Sabbath day, because you're not supposed to do anything on the Sabbath day. They got mad that Jesus healed him. He didn't know who Jesus was. He just said, this dude healed me. He told me to get in my bed and walk, so here I am. And he said, aren't you the guy on the porch? He said, not anymore. I'm the guy with the mat. Okay? Started his own hotel business. Got a mat for rent. Okay? And so, there he goes. So now they're mad. He didn't know who it is. In verse 14, it says, that's where Jesus found him. Where did Jesus find him? In the temple. Look at me. If you'll move your location, God will take you places that you couldn't go on your own. He couldn't get to the temple until he met Jesus. And he said to him, see, you've been made well. Sin no more, lest the worst thing come upon you. Wow. Are you sure Jesus said that? It's in red. It's in the New Testament, and it's in red. And Jesus said, see, you have been made well. Sin no more, lest the worst thing come upon you. Quit doing what got you in the condition you were in. What do you mean? Here's what happens. We get off the porch and start going back to our old habits. And it just starts like this. Someone gives you a phone call and has a prayer request. Would you please pray for Vanessa? Oh yeah, she's just having a hard time. And man, this, and this. And y'all be sure to pray for it. Really what you did was just tell a story about her, and you disguised it in prayer request. Don't bother. And so we go back into the old habits, right? And so the old habits take us back to Bethesda. What's Bethesda mean? Grace. Mercy. Because no matter what condition you're in, there's still grace and mercy for you. Because Jesus will come by. So here's the deal. I'm going to wrap this up really fast because you guys are on the edge of your seat, I can tell. Listen. You would think he would have said immediately, yes, I want to be healed. But he had to make an excuse. That's why he's not. I have no man to put me in somewhere. Jesus didn't ask him why it was dry. He asked him how come he wasn't, if he wanted to be healed. But after 38 years, it's hard to think of anything else but being sick. After living most of your life how you are now, see, this really gets hard for me, but listen to me for just a second. For living like you do most of your life, and it's easy, I want to be accepted. Accept me as who I am, because this is who I am. Accept me for what I do, because you know what I do. But Jesus is in the transformation business.
Yes, amen.
And what does that mean? He changes you. He changed him from a man that could not even get into the water to a man who was not walking. Now, after 38 years, number one, dude hadn't have atrophy in his legs, but Jesus healed that too. And so he began to walk, and he began to, not only that, but he strengthened him that he was able to carry his mat. He strengthened him. So not only that, did he not just, he had strength in his legs, he had clarity of his thoughts, he knew exactly who he was and what had happened to him. And he walked away from what had held him back for 38 years. And listen to me, just hang with me for just a second, please. And he walked away and knowing this, that Jesus had done something that no man had ever been able to do for him. And Jesus allowed him to go to the temple, which he had not been able to go to the temple for how many years? And so he's laying there and he can see, he can hear the singing in the temple. He can hear the noise of people going to the temple, but he can't go. He can't go. He can't be part of the sacrifice because he's laying on the porch. Listen. He wasn't thinking as a healed person when he was on the porch. He was thinking as a sick person lying on the porch. He was identified as the man on the porch. But hear me. Hear me. Jesus changed him from what he was to what he needed to be. But he gave him a warning, which is don't go back to what you were, or else a worse thing comes on you. Church, wrapping up right now. Hear me. Every week you get to come to the pool. Every week somebody comes hoping, God's got to change. Something in my life has to change. Something's got to happen. God let somebody lay hands on me. God let somebody do something. God let the pool be there. God, I got to have a change in my marriage. I got to have a change in my life. My kids, whatever. Make the laundry list. Every week we come to the pool. And every week, most leave without breakthrough and without any consolation coming into their lives. And they're hoping that somebody will do something for them. Can I share this with you? Baby, listen to me, please. Jesus has already asked you, do you want to be well?
Yes, amen.
You have to answer him, not me.
Yes.
Do you want to be made whole?
Yes.
Well, you have to answer that for yourself. You can't just answer it because you know the right answer. Do you want healing more than you want acceptance?
Come on, preach it. Preach it.
Do you want healing in your life more than you want to be accepted for the struggle in your life? Do you want healing in your life more than you want the thing that you desire the most in your life? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What is it? Because until you want healing more than anything else, you'll sit on the porch.
You're preaching.
You'll sit on the porch. Think about this, and I promise this is it. There's a multitude of blind, lame, paralyzed. And Jesus went to one. One. Why? Do you ever think about that stuff? Why? I have to just feel in my heart that he had finally had enough. He really wanted healing. He just didn't know how to answer it correctly. But he wanted it so badly that when Jesus asked him to do the impossible, he did it. What do you mean the impossible? Get up, take your bed, and get out of here. Separate yourself. Get up. He didn't say, I can't get up. He got up. When Jesus asked him to do what seemingly was impossible, he did it. Why? Because he had finally had enough.
Amen.
Let me ask you this. When are you going to have enough? When are you going to get in the pool? When are you going to get up and walk? Jesus has come by. He's asked every one of us, do you want to be well? Every one of us.
Thank you, Lord.
When? Is enough going to be enough? Would you bow your head with me, please? Father, I thank you for another opportunity to be in your house. And thank you for the word. Father, as we dismiss this service, I ask right now in the name of Jesus, if there be those who don't know how to be made whole, but they want to be. Father, I ask right now that we begin to cry out to you, Father, I want to be well. I want to be well. I want to be well. I don't want to be accepted in my sin. I want to be well and made whole. I don't want to be accepted and make an excuse for my sin. I want to be made whole. I want to be righteous before you, God. I want to stand before you holy and acceptable before you. Don't pet me in my sin. Don't pet me in my sin, but rebuke my sin and cleanse me and make me whole. Father, help me. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. If you're in this place this morning,